Hello everyone, it's Jennifer and thank you for joining me today. I have a couple projects in mind and I want to use these gorgeous Dalmatian Jaspers. This is the Gemstone Beads of the Month Club from Adornable Elements, and this is the single version. They also have a double version, but what I love about this Beads of the Month Club is that you get so many different sizes. Look at that. We have 2, 4, 6 different sizes of the gemstone, and it's good, great quality gemstones. And also too, you get a legend card or identification card explaining what each of the gemstones are with their size and their shape, as well as what their price would be and what your savings is. So I saved over 12% by being a part of the Beads of the Month Club. So the first thing I want to do is just show you how these come. I'm going to go ahead and take out my identification card here. And they come in these gorgeous boxes that you can reuse after you use your gemstones. This one here, look how gorgeous that is. Let me grab a piece of wire. Grab a piece of wire so that I can show you what it looks like once it's all strung. There we go. These are beautiful. These are the 8mm cushion beads. So pretty. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I love them. Those will accent any project. You could put a little spacer in between. You don't need a spacer in between. I thought of, let me grab like a rondelle spacer. You can add a rondelle spacer, crystal rondelle spacer to bling that up, and that would just be absolutely gorgeous. Cannot wait to use these. And for these, you get 8. You get 8 of them. Okay, so next we have, these are the flat teardrops, and these are 8 by 12. And let's see where they're drilled. They're drilled right here. And just beautiful. You can add just a single one to maybe some Coriana chain or beading chain. I know my friend Wendy Whitman, she uses a lot of Coriana chain, and this would be absolutely perfect just for a simple necklace, and would just be stunning on some of that chain. These are, again, 8 by 12, and you get 5 of them. And again, this is the single. There's also a double that has double the amount of gemstones. Next, we have, these are 5 by 8 rondelles. And again, just absolutely stunning. The quality of these beads is just incredible. I just love them. And we're actually, if you stick around, I have a couple of projects that I want to make up using some of these amazing Dalmatian Jaspers from the Beads of the Month Club, Adornable Elements. And I just absolutely love these. These are stunning. And for these, you get 40 of them. So you can make a couple projects using these. Then we have the 4 by 6 rondelle, so a little bit smaller than the ones that I just had, but equally stunning. So pretty. These are 4mm by 6, so 6 round, 4 thick. Just beautiful. And we're going to use these. I'm going to use these in a stretch bracelet. So we're going to do a stretch bracelet. So I'm going to put those off to the side, and then let's go ahead and open up this mushroom pendant. This one is 15 by 20 and comes with a bail already. So all you have to do is just string this up. That is absolutely gorgeous. So pretty. And this is, again, 15 by 20. Comes with its own bail. It's nicely wire wrapped and ready for use. You get one of those. Last but not least, we have the 4mm rounds. And, oh, has the 40. I misspoke. This had 24. I misspoke. So you have 40 of these little guys. And they are so cute. And this is what we're going to use in our first project. And I'm going to go ahead and do the projects now. And show you guys what I'm going to be putting together. These are beautiful. So that's what you get with your box. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep these out, and I'm going to bring in some Sawflex 2x2 crimp tubes. I love these crimp tubes. I am going to be making a bracelet using sterling silver, and this bracelet's going to go into my fine line collection. And my fine line collection is a collection made up of the sterling silver, gold filled, and rose gold filled products or pieces. And I'm going to bring in some sterling silver chain, and I'm going to use this as an extender. As I make my bracelets adjustable, so that if you have a 6.5-inch wrist or even up to 8-inch wrist, the same bracelet will fit you. Then we're going to bring in a 6mm sterling silver clasp, and then we're also going to bring in some sterling silver wire guards, because I like to use the wire guards for these pieces. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use the 3mm or if I'm going to use some 2mm. So I am going to also bring in some 2mm just to see which size I want to use. Okay, so let's go ahead. And again, I'm going to be using some Sawflex crimp tubes, which I think I have some in there too. And also going to be using my favorite, the 925 sterling silver extreme flex, again from Sawflex company. I love this beading wire, and I use this for all of my fine line jewelry that is sterling silver. I use either their 24 karat gold or their champagne extreme flex for those gold pieces, and love it, love it, love it. Super strong, super amazing. Now I work from the spool because I don't want to waste. I try to reduce. I can't eliminate waste, but I try to reduce. So I'm going to see which size I like best, because I want the star of the show to be these 4mm, and I kind of like the 4mm with the 4mm Dalmatian Jaspers with the, let's see if I can find this, with the 3mm. So I have 3mm sterling silver, and I also have 2mm. So we'll just see which one works best, looks the best, because I don't want to take away from the Jasper stones, because that's what we're here for. But then yet I also like that pop of silver. I don't know which one I like best. I feel like I'm going to use my 2mm. So I'm going to bring in some more 2mm. And these, again, are sterling silver 2mm beads. And let's go ahead. I'm going to start off by stringing on one of those 2mm, then a Jasper. If I can get to it, there we go. Then another 2mm, another Jasper, and another 2mm. When I'm preparing or designing pieces for my fine line, I don't typically use the gemstones, because customers are interested in just having a sterling silver or gold pieces. And I thought that once I got these amazing Jasper beads, I thought I want to incorporate them into my fine line and make up some pieces using these beads as well as some of those sterling silver. So I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make up some of these bring in some of these amazing Jasper beads and incorporate them with the sterling silver. So I'm going to just keep on going. And we have 2 projects. So I'm going to go ahead and to keep the video, I would like to keep the video down to about 20 minutes or so. I try to. And then we will come in for our next one, because our next, I'll come in once we get close to the end of this one here. Okay, so I am just going to keep on going. And we'll see how far we're going to go. Now, when you're sizing out the bracelets, when I'm sizing them out, I try to make the bracelet, as far as all of the beads and all of the length, about 5.5, because when we take into consideration our crimp tubes, our wire guards, and our clasp, along with our extender, then I usually try to make this about 5 3/4, maybe about 5.5, just because this is about 1 inch once you take into consideration putting all of that together. This actually is directly connected to the bracelet, as well as my spring clasp, just because then I feel like it's more strong. I'm not going to be relying on a jump ring. Plus, then I can add more beads if I do that, because the jump ring takes from the length of the bracelet as well. So I try to do that directly onto the bracelet. And so far, it's worked out pretty well. I didn't in the beginning. In the beginning, I used the jump rings, and then I started thinking, why don't I just go ahead and put these attaches directly without using the jump rings? And so since I started doing that, I'm able to add a couple extra beads, and it makes the bracelet that much more gorgeous. All right, so we will see how long this is after I get another couple beads on here. Now, when I'm measuring, I don't line this up. I don't line this up and say, okay, so this is about 6.5 inches. I actually put it on a bracelet to measure around, because of the size of the beads takes away from the actual length. So this length, 6.5, say it's 6.5, but when I put it on my little excuse for a bracelet measuring tool, it's not going to be 6.5. It's probably going to be about 6, just because of the thickness of the beads. So I will put these on just like so. And then I kind of get it to a good length, and then I'm going to be off camera when I measure this, but I measure this and go about 5.5 inches, and I could probably stand to do another bead and another jasper and another sterling silver, and then we'll see what it looks like. And if it's going to be too much, then I'll just take off, because I have the extender. So I'd rather be able to fit a 6.5 inch wrist by it being a little bit shorter. Let's see where we are at now. And that's exactly at 5.5. So there we go there. So we have, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. Or 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. So we used 24, and we have about 16 left. So that'll be fine, because then if I use these with a larger bead in between, or if I use these as accents, then I can use them for another project. Let's go ahead and grab our 2x2 crimp tube. We're going to grab our wire guard, and we're going to go ahead and insert on the other end, and I'm going to go ahead and add on my extender chain, and then insert to the crimp tube. So now what I like to do is when you look at this, the wire guard is pretty wide, right? And what I like to do is I like to bring that together. For one thing, if I were to crimp this down, this would have a lot of movement, and I don't want that. So let me bring in my my crimper tool. And what I do is with this front notch is rounded. The back notch is where you form your first crimp, where it separates the wire and crimps down that first initial crimp onto your crimp tube. And then this top one kind of rounds it off. So what I like to do is I like to take that portion of the crimper tool and just squeeze and bring those two as close together as I can. And then I'll go ahead and bring that crimp tube up to the wire guard. Then I will place that crimp tube in the back notch, and I make sure that my wires are separated, and I just give it a little squeeze. And yes, I could use magical crimpers on this to give it that bead-like finish, but I haven't done that with this line just because I just like the look of having that finish there. So let's go ahead and get this trimmed off. And you want to get as close as you can to that crimp without trimming off the other side, the tug test. So now let's go ahead and do the same here. And we're going to go ahead and pick up the 2x2 crimp. We're going to pick up our wire guard. We're going to go ahead and pass that back through the other side of the wire guard. Now these I love these spring clasps, and they actually have an open link there, but if I don't have to open it up, just like with a jump ring, if I don't have to open it up, I'm not going to. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that on to the wire guard, and you can see how well protected the wire is. This is incredible beading wire. I can't say enough about it, but I also do like to use the wire guards on this. And bring that together. Now all I'm going to do is bring this down to the end. And there we go there. So let's go ahead and get this separated here. And then I do want a little bit of wiggle room, but not a lot. So I am going to go ahead and crimp it down right there. And give it that crimp. And give it another squeeze with that front notch. Get that nice and tight. Give it the tug test. I give everything the tug test. Also too, just like with regular clasps, I go ahead and I also test it out too to make sure that it works, because they're out of, I buy these by the 100, and there'll be a few that don't, that get a little stuck, and I won't put those on the pieces that I'm going to sell. I will put them on the pieces that I'm going to keep for myself, but not the ones that I'm going to sell, because they still work. It's just, a little tough. All right, so let's go ahead and get in as close as we can to the end. And here we have a gorgeous, gorgeous sterling silver and Dalmatian Jasper bracelet. So pretty. And we have a little bit of an extender so that if you're not 6.5 inches, you're more like 7.5, this will fit you as well. So actually this is close to about 6 1/4. So it'll probably go to about 7 1/4. So that is absolutely perfect for the clientele that I make these bracelets for. So for this next bracelet, we're going to be bringing in some of these 4x6 rondelles. I love them. So we're going to be using those. I also have some crystal rondelles from my stash. And I think I'm just going to use 5 of them. I think I'm just going to go ahead and use 5. And then I am going to bring in some 6mm jet shiny beads. These are from Kelly's Bead Boutique, and I just thought I would incorporate these maybe with a couple of crystal rondelles and make a little stretch bracelet. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I am going to be using some stretch cord, which is stretch fiber cord. So this is a little bit different than the elasticity. And I love it. I love it for these more daintier type bracelets that have the smaller beads. When I use 8mm, 10mm, and if they're quite heavy, I will use the elasticity. But for these, I like the fiber cord. And I'm going to use one of these needles. I mean, I do find that it does fray. Someone else brought that to my attention when I was talking about this type of cord, and it does fray at the needle, especially when you're using beads that have maybe a tighter hole. These are not tight. These are pretty good. And I go through mine twice. So I will show you how I do that. Then I want my knot to be hidden inside here. So that is going to be the first thing that I will be threading on. And then I'm going to thread on the 5 Dalmatian Jaspers. And I put that on first because where I'm going to be tying my knot, so that now what I can do is determine how long the bracelet's going to be. Okay, because when I tie my knot, it's going to be here and it's going to be hidden. All right, so now I'm just going to go ahead and start threading on these jet black 6mm beads. And I'm not sure how many I'm going to use, but we're going to bring out the Fandy Dandy, my high-tech bracelet measuring tool. All right, so let's go ahead and bring this back. And again, I want it to be about 6 3/4, flirting with. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add maybe 2 more. We're going to add 2 more to be 6 3/4-ish. All right, so let's go ahead and get this guy on here. Get him back home there. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie this off so that everything stays intact. And I try to keep everything together. For one thing, I try to keep it to where I have the tag of where I got it from, so that when I go to order more, I know where they came from. All right, so let's go ahead and get these out of the way. And I'll show you how I tie it off. So now what I do is I'm going to go back through again. So I'm going to come back through, and this is just to double it up and to give it a little bit of extra protection. And what I do is I hold on to that as I pass it through. So I'm holding on to the tail that I had as I pass it through, because sometimes what will happen is that tail will start coming back through. All right, let's get this turned around and get this continued passing through. And I am not sure if this is the technical way to do this, but when I first started making the stretch bracelets, this is what worked for me, and it's been very reliable. I haven't had a stretch bracelet come back yet. And it has been, like I said, a few years. And let's go ahead and, oops, sorry about that. Bumped the camera overhead. And then we'll just keep on going around. And as you can tell, if I had elasticity, I wouldn't need a needle because the elasticity is thicker. But with this stretch cord, fiber cord, you will need a needle. And I just have those needles that you can open up so I don't have to worry about threading it on a tinier needle. Plus they're flexible. All right, so I had way too much stretch cord, but that's okay. I can't even tell you how much I had out there first, but it was probably a good 24 inches. So now let's go ahead and bring this all together. You want to bring this together. You don't want it to be so tight that when it's sitting on the wrist, it's kind of distorted. So this is about as tight as I would want it. And so now I have the two ends together. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tie my knot. And I'm just going to do a regular overhand knot. Then I'm going to do a surgeon's knot. So I'm going to wrap once and twice and get that nice and tight. Give it a little bit of a tug here and there. Then what I'm going to do, because I have that nice area to hide it, I'm going to tuck this under the two cords, and then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go ahead and tie the knot, and then I'm going to do the surgeon's knot. Okay, and then I'm going to just take a peeky weeky at it, always giving it a test. And that is hidden in there pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and do a whole nother surgeon's knot just for some added protection. Then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the GS Hypo Cement. And then what I do is I pull it and then I wrap it around my finger. And I know that I'm cutting off the circulation there, but I want to be able to get the GS Hypo in there and get that in there really well. I think I'm getting down to the end of the life of this GS Hypo Cement, but I can still see a little bit coming out. I think I have another tube there. All right, so then just give it a little bit of a, sorry about that, quick cool. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down. I come down, let me see if I have my other cutters. I don't know where they're at, but I'm going to go ahead and use these. And I can come down a little bit above the knot just because I know that it's going to be hidden. Give it that little squeeze, and there we go. And then we will let it dry for 24 hours before we start to wear it. And then we have ourselves another bracelet. So we have this stretch bracelet using the 4x6 rondelles, also adding in 6mm crystal rondelles, 6mm jet black rounds. And then for the fine line, we had those small 4mm rounds with 2mm sterling silver beads, along with some sterling silver components using the sterling silver Extreme Flex from Sawflex company, as well as the 2x2 crimp tubes that are sterling silver from Sawflex company. So if you like this video, please give it a big, huge thumbs up. And be sure to comment. I love to see what everybody has to say, and subscribe. And until next time, have a good one.